Hello and welcome. So today, guys, I am going to be sharing with you a detailed review of 4 fragrances that were launched by Haramain now in 2024 as part of the L'Adventure collection. There's 4 fragrances that have been added to this already existing collection, and I've had them for a bit over a week, and I am ready to give you all the details of the findings of testing. But before we jump right in, if this is your first time here, I'm Arahi, and in this channel, we love to talk about fragrances because we love to smell fabulous at all times. I upload videos on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Sundays, and sometimes like today, you even get a bonus video for the week. If that sounds like the type of content that you're interested in and like a good plan, then please consider subscribing, give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget, leave a comment. Let's go. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and start with the first fragrance. And this one is called L'Adventure Ciel, and it comes in this box. I think this is such a unique packaging. Very sleek, very modern, very nice. And then the fragrance would come in there. And all 4 fragrances that I'm going to share with you today come in a box like that. I'll quickly show you the boxes of the others in case you're interested, but I just won't spend as much time with them. And then here is the bottle for Le Ciel. So let me just start by saying that based on the notes and my experience using the fragrance and what I'm getting from the fragrance, this is giving me very, very strong Ani X vibes. I do own Ani X, and I did test them side by side so that I could bring you my observations. We'll cover that later in the review. But let me start by saying that this is a fragrance that opens up quite citrusy. My impression of this fragrance, guys, is that it was designed to be like a freshie for the females, because even though this is a blue bottle, this is not the one that they've designated as the male fragrance. No, this one is supposed to be unisex, but to me, this is definitely a feminine, freshy fragrance. Now, do I think that this is only for females? No, I just know that, I just don't want to say that this is a freshie and then you think that this is really more leaning masculine. No, this is really a unisex fragrance. And if I had to pick a lean, I would say it leans a tad, just a tiny bit on the feminine side, because there is a sweetness to this fragrance. And we'll talk more about it now as I cover the accords and the olfactory journey. So this fragrance is fresh, it's a tad sweet, and there is some woodiness here. It's also like a bit spicy, but the spiciness is quite fresh, and it doesn't last very long. This is truly a fresh fragrance, but it's not like a citrusy only where it's going to be a light fragrance that you're going to spray and it's just going to go away. No, there is more character to this fragrance. So like I said, it opens up quite citrusy, and I can clearly pick up on the bergamot and the lemon. But all throughout that opening, I'm also getting the spices in the background, but the spices are not prominent at all. The opening is truly all about the bergamot and the lemon. As the journey continues, the fragrance does start to become a bit powdery. And at the dry down, so you know, it's not going to be crazy powdery. You are just going to get that powdery quality, but still remaining extremely fresh. This is a beautiful, fresh fragrance, guys. I clearly pick up on the violet, and there's also a good bit of lavender. I pick up on those florals clearly on the way to the dry down immediately after the opening. But again, after the opening, the spices kind of disappear, and they won't come back, at least to my nose, until almost the dry down. This fragrance is also musky, quite musky, which also adds to that freshness. And there's a beautiful tea note in this fragrance that I can pick up on through like midway towards the dry down, and then it just never leaves. It's something that like grounds the fragrance and gives it a bit more character. At the dry down, you're gonna get the most beautiful mix of like the tea note with the lavender, with the violet, which is, bringing that powderiness on. And the powderiness is very light because it doesn't take anything away from the inherent freshness of the fragrance. And then all of that is like at the forefront of like a kind of like creamy quality muskiness. It is a very, very beautiful fragrance. It does give me, though, the Ani X vibes, as I said before, but there are differences. I really don't think that this was meant to be Ani X. It just gives me the same vibe. This fragrance, as I said before, is definitely unisex and a fragrance that I would definitely pull during the spring and summer seasons and even during the beginning of the fall. If you live somewhere where it tends to get rather cold during the fall season, then I would limit it towards the beginning of the fall because this is quite a fresh fragrance. And to top it all off, it has that tea note, which really grounds the fragrance and adds to that lightness and airiness of the fragrance. I think that this is a fragrance that you can definitely dress up or dress down, and you can definitely use it day or night during the spring and summer seasons. I'm not sure that I would use this fragrance for a night occasion during the fall season. As far as the maturity meter, I think that this is a fragrance that anybody can wear. This fragrance does not give me mature vibes or too juvenile or anything like that. I think this is a perfectly balanced and high complementing fragrance. Also, as far as the oud meter goes, there is absolutely no oud in this fragrance. As far as performance, I have been quite happy with the performance of this fragrance because whenever I pick up a fragrance that is in the freshy kind of context, I'm always expecting that the performance is not going to be all there. But in this one, oh guys, and this fragrance really does smell so good. I just love it. I think this is going to be so perfect for the summer. And I really don't have a freshie that is quite like this. And I think that it's because of that combination of violet, which is so rare to find in a freshie kind of fragrance, as well as that lavender is just done beautifully smooth. And then that tea note just takes it to the next level. I really, really enjoy this fragrance. This is giving me right now about 6 hours without having to overspray. And I also experience a strong projection during the first 2 hours, after which it becomes a scent bubble until about around hour 5, almost hour 6, when it becomes a very demure skin scent. It does have a moderate sillage, and while wearing it, I didn't get any compliments. But again, I didn't overspray. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but I just don't think that this is a fragrance that you should or that you need to overspray, because it's designed to be, kind of like a very freshy, non-complex, non-statement, bold making. This is a tea kind of fragrance with musk. So, it's about a different thing. So as far as how it compares to Ani X, I can tell you that I find this one to be less spicy than Ani X. In Ani X, I do pick up quite a bit of spiciness, which I absolutely love, but this one just is less spicy to my nose. I also pick up on less vanilla in this fragrance than I do in Ani X. In Ani X, I pick up on a good amount of vanilla halfway towards the dry down. In this one, I really don't pick up on the vanilla until almost dry down, and at dry down it's a very faint vanilla. This is definitely, guys, a freshy fragrance. Also, and a very, very clear difference between this one and Ani X is that in this one, I do pick up on the note of lavender much more than I do in Ani X. But I attribute that in Ani X because in Ani X, you have a very strong note of patchouli. And I believe that the lavender in Ani X has to contend continuously with the very strong patchouli. But in this fragrance, I really don't pick up on patchouli at all. It has not been disclaimed in the notes, and my nose doesn't pick up on patchouli really at all here, but I do pick up on that lavender, which has been done quite nicely. All in all, I give this fragrance a 9 out of 10. So the next fragrance that I'm going to discuss with you is L'Adventure Grapefruit. And as I promised before, it comes in this box. Again, the same box, just red. but very, very nice boxes, guys. And here is the fragrance. Same bottle, just a different color. So let me start by telling you that based on the notes and my research on the notes, and as soon as I sniffed it, I knew that I had kind of smelled this before, and I ended up concluding that this must have been inspired on a fragrance by Escada called Magnetism. Now, I don't own that fragrance. I really don't think I've ever really owned an Escada fragrance, but I do know that I had received some samples of that like tons of years ago. And when I first sniffed it, it just felt like I had smelled something similar before. And then when I did my research on the notes, I did find that it is almost exactly the same note structure as in the Magnetism fragrance from Escada. Now, this fragrance is quite fruity, but it's not like obnoxious fruity. It's just like perfect fruity. And along with that fruitiness, you get a beautiful caramel. And that caramel sweetens the fragrance. The fragrance is sweet, not super sweet, not a little bit sweet. No, it is sweet. But the sweetness to my nose is clearly coming from the caramel. It's a bit woody. There's a good amount of florals here. And I don't pick up on the powderiness until almost dried down, but at the dried down, you're definitely going to have a powdery quality to the fragrance. So to my nose, the dominant notes in this fragrance are all of the fruity notes that are involved, as well as that caramel, and then some vanilla, some florals, and the patchouli. But curiously enough, the patchouli is dominant through like 3/4 of the olfactory journey, but then at dry down, it becomes like a faint patchouli. I can barely pick it up. And just that made me test the fragrance an additional day, because typically when there's patchouli in a fragrance, and I've shared this with you before, my nose is very sensitive to the note of patchouli, and I typically pick it up clearly. And at the dry down, the patchouli goes like into a faint mode when it comes to this fragrance. So at the dry down, you're definitely getting a beautiful, fruity, floral scent that is definitely complemented by that vanilla note. Now, the vanilla is not dominant. It is just perfectly pairing with the fruits and with the florals. Amongst the florals, I do pick up distinctively on the jasmine and the rose, but the rose is never dominant. The jasmine is not dominant. No, it's just like a perfect blend at the dry down. As far as maturity level, I don't think that this is really a fragrance for someone who is in their early 20s. There's nothing juvenile or playful about this fragrance. It's not a serious fragrance or what I would describe as a mature fragrance, but it is definitely a fragrance with a certain level of character. And the jasmine definitely plays a key role in doing so. As far as the oud meter, I would say that there is absolutely no oud in this fragrance, because I don't get oud at all whatsoever. This is also a fragrance that I think you can get away with using all seasons throughout the year, day or night, and for any occasion. You can dress it down, you can dress it up, you can take it on a vacation. This is just a very versatile fragrance. Now, would I wear this on a very hot summer day during the day? No, I don't think so. But I think it is perfection for like those evening events during the summer season. This fragrance right now is getting me about 7 hours on skin, with a very strong projection during the first 2.5 to 3 hours. And it also has quite a moderate sillage. The good news is that while wearing this fragrance, I did get one compliment. This is a fragrance that I don't consider to be unisex. This really leans heavy to the feminine side. I really don't think that a man would be happy wearing this fragrance. I think this definitely leans quite heavy towards the feminine side. All in all, I give this fragrance an 8 out of 10 because while it's performing quite well without even having a chance to macerate, and while I am enjoying the entire journey, and I think it's a beautiful fragrance because it is, I will tell you though that I just don't think it's groundbreaking. So I am going to give it an 8 out of 10. So the next fragrance from the collection that I want to share with you is L'Adventure Fraiche. And it comes in this box. Same box as the others, but this one is just the green box. And so you know, this fragrance is the one that's supposed to be specific for males. And here is the bottle. Same bottle, just a beautiful hunter green. So based on the notes, I could not find another fragrance that I could say that maybe it was inspired by. And just from sniffing it, it really didn't remind me of anything. This fragrance is very citrusy. It's also beautiful, fresh, spicy. It's aromatic, very aromatic. It has a good amount of woodiness to it, but the woodiness is not like heavy woodiness. No, because the fragrance is just so fresh. And there's quite a bit of musk. So in this one, there is also a tea note, but the tea note has been done so differently to my nose than how it was done in Ciel, which is the one in the blue bottle that I shared with you before. This is supposed to be, for sure, the male version of a freshie within the collection, and the Ciel is supposed to be the female version of a freshie within the L'Adventure collection. But for me, I love this one, and I also love Ciel. Now this one, to my nose, the dominant notes here at the opening, without a doubt, the dominant notes are the bergamot and the lemon. And the citrus opening of this one is much more potent or intense than the opening of the bergamot and the lemon that I get in Ciel. Another extremely dominant note in this one is the ginger. And in the opening, I don't pick up on the ginger immediately, but after a bit, I do start to pick up on that little like spiciness that the ginger brings to the picture. And then it becomes not intense, but it is definitely a ginger note that is very, very much present. Then as the journey continues and almost at dry down, when I clearly pick up on the tea note, and then there's a creaminess that comes at the dry down, which I think it's thanks to that sandalwood note. As far as maturity, I really think that this is a bit more mature of a fragrance than Ciel. With Ciel, I said that anybody could use it, right? Well, with this one, I think that someone who's in their early 20s, you know, this may be a tad bit mature for them, but they may be able to get away with it because I don't think that this fragrance is necessarily mature. I just think that it's a bit more complex than Ciel. Ciel is a bit more lighthearted, to call it something. And I think that because this one was designed to be more for the males, I think that that's where the difference resides. But all in all, as far as maturity, I think that anybody can use this fragrance, and maybe not someone who's in their very early 20s. This is definitely, to my nose, a unisex fragrance with no lean. This was designed to be more towards the male than the female, but this is definitely a unisex fragrance, and I'm definitely going to be rocking this one during the summer. And I've also started to layer it with Ciel, and together they are perfection. This is definitely a fragrance that I would limit to the spring and summer seasons. Just like I said with Ciel, I can't picture myself using or pulling this fragrance during the fall or winter season. This is definitely a spring and summer fragrance that you can use for any occasion, day or night, dress it up, dress it down. It is really the perfect fragrance. Right now, I'm getting a solid 6 hours with this fragrance if I overspray. Curiously enough, at the beginning, I was getting better performance from Ciel, but when I retested this one gave me a solid 6 hours as I oversprayed. I didn't go crazy on the overspray, but I did overspray that day, and it gave me a solid 6 hours with a very strong projection during the first 2 hours, after which it became became a skin scent. The sillage is moderate, and when I wore this fragrance, it didn't get me any compliments. But the day that I layered this one with Ciel, I got not one compliment, but two. One from my own husband and another one while I was out. This is a beautiful fragrance that I think is another incredible freshie within the L'Adventure collection, and I highly recommend it, and I give it a 9 out of 10. So this next one is, and I'm just going to spoil it right now, this one is my favorite of the four. I think this fragrance is so incredible. I just absolutely love it, but we're gonna talk more about it. This one is L'Adventure Iris, and it comes in this beautiful purple bottle. I'll show you the box in a minute. You may recall that I actually hauled it with you, and I told you that I would circle back with a review. So today I am super ready to talk about this beauty. So let me show you the box that it comes in. It's basically the same box as the others, just purple. And here is the bottle. So I just want to start by saying that if you've been with me for a while, you know that I absolutely love the notes of iris and violet, amongst many other notes that I love. But the reason that I told you that I am loving this fragrance is not necessarily because of the iris and the violet. This is just an exceptional fragrance in my opinion. So this fragrance opens up, oh my goodness, this fragrance opens up quite citrusy. Those citrus notes come through clearly, but along with the citrus notes, you pick up on quite a bit of spiciness. I pick up on the cardamom immediately, and even though they don't disclaim it, I pick up on a combination of peppers. I specifically pick up on like a pink pepper and also black pepper. Very spicy. As your nose starts to become comfortable and acquainted with the citrus notes mixed with that spiciness, then you start to pick up on the florals. And from the florals, the first one that I pick up is the jasmine, followed by the iris, and then there's an incredibly done lavender in this fragrance. This fragrance is fresh, spicy, it's musky, there's a good bit of florals, and it's not that there's many florals in here. It's really for me about just the iris, the jasmine, and the lavender, but the florals are present. They're not dominant, but they're present. The powderiness travels with you from like right after that citrusy opening. You start to pick up on a little bit of powderiness that just increases as the journey continues. There's a touch of woodiness, which gives the fragrance depth and character. And there's a touch of greenness, which to me just makes it perfect for spring and summer. At the dry down, oh my goodness, that's where the real magic happens, because at the dry down, you're going to get like the most beautiful combination of florals where they all play very well together. And then those florals have like spices in the background, but the spices are very like demure. They're just there like in a supporting role to the florals. And all of that is like on a base of like this powdery creaminess courtesy of the patchouli and a beautiful, beautiful vanilla in the background. This is to me a very different kind of iris type of fragrance. I think this was done beautifully. And I'm also quite impressed at the fact that this really is another freshy fragrance, but done with a spin on that powdery side with the iris and the lavender and the jasmine. They've made those three florals really work well together. And then I was even more impressed when at the dry down we got that patchouli, and the patchouli played so well together. It's just done exquisitely. As far as the maturity for this fragrance, I would say that this is definitely a fragrance for someone that is over their 30s. I mean, if you are under 30 and you want to go for it because you love iris and you love the note of lavender and some of the other notes that I've mentioned, or you're just intrigued by the journey that I described, well, of course, you can use whatever you want. But I really think that there's a tad bit of maturity to this fragrance. And this is definitely a fragrance that I see someone above 30 using. As far as the oud meter, of course, there is no oud in this fragrance whatsoever. I don't pick up on anything. They haven't disclaimed oud, so I would say that we're safe. There is no oud in this fragrance. This is a fragrance that I consider to be unisex, but leaning a tad feminine. There is just such a beauty to this fragrance. When I wear this fragrance, it makes me feel beautiful and feminine and ready to embrace spring. This is a fragrance that you can use in any season. You can use it day or night. You can dress it down. You can dress it up for absolutely any occasion. I really think this would be a beautiful fragrance for a spring bride. Right now, I get a solid 6+ hours with this fragrance, but I have to tell you, I have not oversprayed this fragrance because I'm a bit afraid to do so. This fragrance is not crazy intense, but there's just something about those florals and the patchouli at the dry down, and I just don't want to overdo it. Without overspraying, it's giving me 6+ hours with a very strong projection during the first 2 hours, and it's giving me a moderate sillage. All in all, I definitely love this fragrance and I give it a 10 out of 10. All right, guys, so we've reached the end of this video and I hope that this was enjoyable for you. If you have any questions about this collection, you know where to find me. Just leave me a comment in the comment section and I will certainly get back to you. I really think that this is a very nice collection, and this is the first time that I had tried any of the fragrances from the Haramain L'Adventure collection, and I think that because I'm so happy with these fragrances, I think I'm going to try I think it's L'Adventure Rose that it's called. It comes in a beautiful bottle and those notes are quite intriguing for me, so I think I'm going to give it a shot. If you've tried any of the L'Adventure collection fragrances in the past, please let me know your thoughts, and if you've tried any of the fragrances that I reviewed today, let me know your thoughts. Thank you so much as usual for hanging with me today, and I will see you in the next video.